Hey, Chris. Hey, Jessica.
Hi,
Hey,
Adam.
Adam.
Thank you for taking the time to chat today.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having us.
I'm so excited to chat with you both. It's such an honor. As you both know, the point of our conversation today is we want to highlight at SeedTrust, we want to highlight the amazing people behind the work and people in the industry doing such amazing work to help families. And I've known you both of you for a really long time and worked alongside of you in supporting families. And I'm excited today to have a chat about both of you, your agency, and also the industry. So,
Perfect. Well, we're
would you,
excited. So bring on the questions.
yeah, would you mind kind of starting off by introducing yourselves and a bit about the agency?
Sure.
Sure. So I'm Jessica Bussman. We've been Surrogacy Partnership for 8 years now.
Mhm.
I'm also a two-time previous surrogate. That's what kind of led us into starting and creating this agency. My second family that I helped was for an IVF doctor, and she wanted to be able to refer her patients to her so that she could send them to someone that she knew and trusted. And so that's what got us, off and running. And we still work with her clinic today, but I couldn't do this alone. So I got him involved, and he'll introduce
And,
himself.
and I'm Chris Bussman, and I don't know that I could add too much to what Jessica said because she is the face of what we do. And I'm kind of, behind the scenes managing the business component of it. But, it is an important component that has to be managed. So, but yeah, the heart and soul of both of us are there in terms of what we do. And the rewards are great when you get to the end destination of creating a new family through surrogacy.
Yeah,
Well, Chris, don't downplay what you do too much.
I know. I
I
couldn't do
think
without him.
yeah, I think to have a successful agency or any business in this space, you have to have the heart and soul of the work and really care about our clients, but you also have to run a good business so you can do that consistently and sustainably. Well, tell me a little bit about what's unique about the agency. What are you proud about? What's different?
Sure.
What I think is special is that we are a husband and wife team. So when anybody, reaches out to us, whether it's a surrogate or an intended parent looking for help, they speak to us first and they're with us the entire time. So they're not handed off to anybody else. We take on all the roles that get you from start to finish in this process. And we also approach it in a very personal manner. We understand that there are transactions occurring throughout this process, but it doesn't need to feel like this. Most people that come as an intended parent into the space, it's for reasons like that they can't not that they can't explain. There are medical reasons, of course, but there's usually a really sad story behind it. And so we just are very mindful of, why people have to be here, and nobody wants to have to make this call, but they want to be taken care of in the process. And so that's what we do. We're not a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday operation. So our evenings, our weekends, even holidays are filled with surrogacy and helping because people often need that help outside of regular business hours. So
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to add anything?
I mean, it's hard to top what you're saying, but yes, I mean, we approach the process from a point of compassion, and we understand that this is no one's first choice in family building, and we understand that how you got here is not ideal. That's first and foremost, and we're always encouraging the way our business model is. We're not taking any form of payment until we have presented to you a qualified, screened, medically approved candidate through your IVF clinic. So we're working on your behalf before you've even taken payment. And when intended parents come to us in our initial consult, we're letting them know, hey, we encourage you to also look elsewhere, because if time is an issue for you in terms of, your family building, we want you to proceed in a fashion that's best going to suit you as well. So while we would be sad that we weren't maybe necessarily the agency working on your behalf, we want you to get to where your goals are, regardless of whether that's with us or some other reputable agency.
Yeah. And then when we do find that person for them that's fully screened and qualified, they've chosen us to work with them and they don't feel obligated to. And that's why we do it in the order that we do it. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, having worked with both of you through many cases. I know you've put that personal touch and connection into all of them and really care.
Yeah.
So 8 years in the business as a husband and wife team, as someone who's married, how do you do it? What's the trick? I
We
hear, I hear, I hear Chris saying it was hard to beat what she said, but how does it, how do
well,
you do it? It's
it's
amazing.
it's actually really easy because we stay out of each other's lanes. He knows what I do and what I'm good at, and I equally know what he does and what he's good at. And even when intended parents sometimes try to muddy the waters where maybe they come to me and they're asking a financial question or an escrow question, I'm like, you know what, that is a great question, one that Chris will be able to, help with that for you. And so that's how we do it. Yeah.
Yeah, by making a clear delineation between how we approach the process in terms of surrogacy partnership, it makes it easy for us to work together because we, as Jessica's previously stated, we kind of stay in our own lane. I know what she's good at, and she knows what I'm good at, and together as a team, we're excellent at it, and that's why we've been able to continue the success that we've had, to date.
Yeah.
Sounds like you're saying you bring both that industry expertise and compassion. Both of you have that, right? But at this point,
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Jessica carries that side of the business, and then you bring the business financial piece to make it all work.
Yeah.
Really
Absolutely.
awesome. I'm sure you don't talk about business at all at the dinner table,
Oh my
right?
gosh. If only our kids probably would complain the most about, the conversations and yeah, there's really no separation. And so we talk a lot about work. It's just a part of our everyday life. And our children have grown up in that environment with me being a surrogate. And now this is what we do for a living. But if anything, they're usually just like, how's this case going? Are they pregnant yet? And so they're also very compassionate about what's going on. And it's good for them.
They've had the opportunity to meet intended parents too after the
Yeah.
baby's born, which is a really cool thing that they can
Yeah.
see the fruits of what we do and the team that builds, that new family and how that all comes to be. And it's pretty rewarding to be able to share that with them too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think about the people in our industry a lot and the work we do, and obviously you can't. It's extremely hard to find something that has more purpose or impact than what we do.
Yeah.
And I think the agencies are the heroes in our space. They bring people together, they guide everybody through the journey, and they make it all possible. They're also the ones that take it on the chin anytime there's anything wrong, whether it's them or a provider.
Now,
And
Adam, don't shortchange yourself because escrow is equally an important component of the process, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's why we choose to work with SeedTrust because you guys excel at what you do, and without the trust built into your platform and knowing that things are going to get done in a timely and efficient manner, things would not go as smoothly as they go typically. I mean, there's always, pivots that you have to do on occasion because no case is the same, but I have that assurance that, funds are going to be dispersed in a timely manner, in an appropriate manner. And that's a key linchpin in what we do as well. So that is a main reason is why we partner with you guys.
Yeah.
we take a lot of pride in trying to remove a lot of the stress and uncertainty in the financial process from everybody involved, so the agency can focus more on guiding the family through the journey, and the parents and surrogate can focus on that future baby, right?
We appreciate that.
But it does. I mean, a surrogacy journey takes an entire village, right, of
Yes.
professionals, and picking the right professionals in every category makes a huge difference, right?
Absolutely.
And I always say most journeys go really well. It's the ones that have a problem or an issue or misunderstanding that when you have the right team in place, it makes a big difference. Having the
does.
right team makes a difference anyway. But when you have an issue or something that goes wrong, having the right team means everything, right? Because
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about I'm here on this in this meeting with you. I have so much knowledge and experience, right? If you could give one or two pieces of advice to, and we're going to talk about parent surrogate and surrogates. If you could give one or two pieces of advice or things that are commonly misunderstood or tension points in a journey to an intended parent or intended parents, what would it be?
Mm. For intended parents, in terms of the surrogacy journey, it's different in a sense that it's not linear. There's no, because most times when intended parents come to us, depending on their level of knowledge, right? Some have more than others when they come to an agency. They tend to have a linear focus and like, okay, we do this, then this happens, and this happens. Well, unfortunately, that is not always the case with surrogacy. You have to be able to pivot from your expected outcome and navigate through that to get to the end goal. Where because our goal is still the same, but it's not always going to be, I can't give you a blueprint for exactly how that's going to go. I can give you an overarching view, but it's not going to be A gets to B, gets to C, gets to D. It's more like, hey, there's something that came up here. We have to deal with that, but we're still moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
And it's just being to absorb those changes or be adaptable is the biggest thing I would say. And most people, once they start getting into it, they start understanding that. But when you're coming to it from a place of just maybe limited understanding, that would be probably my biggest piece of advice.
Yeah. And our job as an agency is when things go off track is to get them back on, however that might be. And it might just be that expectation of for them to let them know what's going on in the process and that this is normal or this is how we're going to get back on track.
Yep.
And it can even be said for the surrogates as well. Surrogates kind of come in with an expectation of, and I know I did, is that pregnancy was easy for me. Therefore, this is going to be easy. Boom. I want to help you. We're going to have a baby and it's going to take,
X amount of time.
Yeah. And then everything's going to be wonderful. And it can be easy in a lot of cases and straightforward. I try to educate them about the time frames because there's a lot to do before you even get to the transfer point. But there are those cases, and my first surrogacy was a great, example of this, of that it was a 3-year process. And it was about, really knowing what you were choosing to do and wanting that end result to come, but many, many obstacles, hurdles, and it was difficult. And so a good agency will just kind of talk everybody through that and let them know, what the actual expectations can be and does that work for them for their time frame. And yeah, so similar, but for different reasons for both GCs and intended parents.
Yeah. But that is the reason we exist, is to expertly and compassionately guide you through that process.
Yeah.
When those circumstances arise, we're going to hold your hand and get you through it.
Yeah. Most people, I think, if issues occur during a journey, it's because the response is, well, I had no idea about that. Like, why didn't you tell me this was possible or this could happen? And so I just feel if you're always transparent with people from the get-go, then they understand better and they can, like Chris said, roll with the punches when they do occur. And so, and that they know that when life does happen, which for intended parents, the whole purpose of them being here is because life happened to them and not the way that they thought it would, that at least they've got a good solid team around them to help them get through, because we too want them to have that baby in their arms at the end. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's very well said. Trust in your team, right? I mean, and if they've hired an agency and a great team of professionals, they need to trust their team to guide them, right? And we all know that this process is emotional, complex, expensive.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And like Chris, as you said earlier on, people have gone through so much many times before they even get to surrogacy. So, and I think that's helping guide those people through this is why many of us work probably an embarrassing amount of hours and to help families, because we empathize with what folks are going through and we want to make it as seamless as possible. But things happen, right? And there's not a perfect path.
Yeah.
I always say trust in the professionals, right? It's, like even in my little corner of the process on the financial side, you know, I think the separation from the surrogates and the parents on the financial conversations, let the agency and the escrow company have those conversations, because 99% of them are just misunderstandings or can be solved with explanation.
Yep.
Yep.
And you want to separate those tense conversations from the parents and surrogates. You want their conversations to be about that baby, how the pregnancy is going, the future family, not how to calculate lost wages or what level of hotel is due during my travel, right?
Yes.
I think letting the agency and the escrow company sort some of that stuff out on the financial end, it just separates that, and just trust the professionals, right? And you all deal with so much more than just the financial part, right? It's, to be that, it seems like being that party in between can make a huge difference.
It can. It really allows them to enjoy the surrogacy process. So, I mean, when you talk about money in general, there's a reason that most people don't have money conversations in life. It's because it can make things a little like icky too, of like,
Or
ugh.
transactions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
Right.
they all know that they can come to us from either side and we can sort things out, and then they can just, like you said, focus on that baby or just the things that they have. I always encourage parties finding out what they have in common. So that's how they can truly build on a relationship too. There's more to life than just the pregnancy. It's, you're all people and you're doing this together. And that's how a lot of them remain friends and have relationships even after baby's born. So,
Yeah, look, I think there's probably and at times even a misconceptions that most surrogates do this for the money, and it's just not true. Right. So I think surrogates go on this journey because they're passionate about helping a family or enjoy, and have become inspired to do that. And the compensation certainly helps compensate for part of that process and protects them from financial damage from going through from helping a family.
yeah,
Um, but it certainly doesn't compensate them for the overall process or risk they take.
Yeah.
It's certainly not why they're doing it,
Right.
or the primary reason why they're doing it. And it shouldn't be the primary conversation, right? It
Yeah.
really shouldn't.
Agreed.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I usually get that as one of the main questions when I'm first talking to intended parents is like, why would this person who doesn't know me, who's a stranger, want to help me with this huge thing that takes up so much of her time and puts her body through X, Y, and Z? I can't wrap my head around it. And I go, because these women are mothers. And what that means is that when they held their baby in their arms for the first time, they felt this immense joy that they felt in no other way than that moment when they held their child. And the thought of giving that feeling to other people is what brings surrogates back again and again. It's not the money.
Yeah.
There's always going to be those outliers, right? Of the people who maybe are, but there's such a small amount of them. The women that are truly doing this and that you're hearing about in general, they're just wonderful people who had a good experience with pregnancy, knows what it feels like to be a parent, and they just want to give that to somebody who can't do it on their own.
Yeah.
So,
I would say on average, probably even before Jessica gets to the point where she would present a qualified screened candidate, she's already gotten to know that surrogate for 3-4 months.
Yeah.
Maybe more sometimes. Just depends on the nature of that particular case. But many months have gone by where Jessica's already just gotten to know that person and where their heart is and what their purpose is in doing this. And she chooses carefully and with intent. And she still has a bat in 1,000 for matches. She has not had one that didn't end in a match, which is truly amazing to me. And it shows me the dedication to her craft and her expertise. It's
and
listening
to others. It always comes down to listening. If people feel heard and listened to on both sides, you can avoid so many problems. And so it's not about, and I tell surrogates this because they go, well, do I get to choose the intended parents? I go, absolutely. I go, I'm going to listen to what you're wanting out of this process, what you're hopeful for. I do the same thing from intended parents. And that's how I look at match options. It's not a matter of, we have this long list and you're the next one who's been waiting the longest. And here's the next surrogate who's available. Oh, you have a want, there's a need, boom, it's a match. Those will end in disaster. So it's truly about making sure that you match people accordingly. And so when I do get onto my match Zoom calls and I'm looking to bring everybody together, and I've done everything in such a such a way that the matches are successful because you do it right. And then they go on to have a great experience. So, and then they come back and want to do it again.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So hold on, Chris, you just said batting 1,000, meaning there's never been a surrogate presented to a parent that was pre-screened. A lot of people don't even understand the work that goes into pre-screening and qualifying and vetting and all of that work you all do before you present.
Right.
We could talk about it, but let's not miss this. You've never got it wrong. There's never been
at the point where she has a scheduled match call, she has not ever come out of that where somebody decided that, oh, we're gonna break the match. Please continue looking for us for another a suitable candidate.
As soon as they meet each other, and I'm really good about because everybody, it's kind of like a fertility blind date. That is the best way to describe how these match Zoom calls happen, right? Is that both sides will message me and they're like, oh my gosh, Jessica, I'm really nervous. And I go, don't be nervous. I said, I have yet to not have a successful match. I feel confident. Take my confidence. I'm going to go in. We're going to make this fun. I want everyone to feel comfortable opening up, talking to each other. And that's part of it too, is once you make everybody feel comfortable on a call and they do like allow themselves to ask the questions and to just get to know each other, that's why it's successful too, is that I conduct it in a certain way. But yeah, so it makes me happy.
A bigger human component than a clinical component in terms of the match process, right? Which you need to bring the humanity to it. And I think that's why she's so successful at that matching process.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And from my lens, most journeys go so beautifully and go so well, right? Because so much work goes into helping ensure families, if they have the right team, the right professionals, and so much work goes into making sure that they're set up for success. But sometimes there are challenges in journeys, and it's not a perfect process. It's a medical process, and there's people involved.
And there's biology involved, right?
Things you can't explain. Even the doctors don't necessarily have, an explanation to tell parents when a transfer fails, when you have, double A grade quality donor embryos involved. And the surrogates, all of her screening to that point has gone ideal, but it doesn't take. And everyone's like, what happened? The surrogate blames herself. And then the parents are like, we don't understand. And, so it's those extra things that, sadly we can't explain. And yet we just say, are we ready to try this again? So.
Yeah, no, for sure. What are some of the common challenges or misunderstandings that you all see in the overall process that causes tension?
It can cause tension. Well, what can cause tension? I think that it's important that anything that's important to either side needs to be discussed prior to matching. That's a given. Sometimes people decide to share things a little later, which then I have a separate conversation with them of like, oh, and now we're maybe having an issue with this because you didn't bring it up and it made it into like a decision-making factor, right? One of the ones that can definitely come up is that hospitals where the surrogate will deliver at, and maybe even the doctor that will do the delivery, sometimes parents have very strong feelings about who that doctor should be, where that, hospital should be located, maybe what the level NICU it should be is. And some surrogates have very strong feelings on what doctor they would like to see. Maybe it's a doctor they have a relationship with. And so when you try to go against something like the care that you're going to get throughout this process, some surrogates just feel very strongly, and that can cause tension. It is something that's typically written into the gestational carrier agreement. So at that point, it could be something that's figured out, but you really should not be getting to anything by legal and figuring it out. That's why legal should be streamlined too. And like we use a benefits package for that very reason. That
Right.
doesn't help with the hospital piece, but that's something I always tell parents, and like, disclose all the things that are important to you, that are an important factor for you in this process, so that I can talk to the surrogate about it. Because if you need her to deliver at this specific hospital and that's the only thing that's important to you, and she's not willing to do that, then maybe she's not the right person for you. So I would say that's kind of the biggest contention that
Yeah,
can come up is
I
care.
would agree.
And I am a big advocate. I try to for the surrogate's right to have the care that she prefers, only because, once again, with my own personal experience as a surrogate, I know what it's like to be asked to go elsewhere and do it happily. But then at the end, it was to my own detriment, and that I didn't get the care that I needed, and that the baby didn't end up actually needing, because it, it became a lot of times they'll choose a hospital based on fear, like if all these things go wrong and we need this for the baby, and I get that. But what about if things go wrong for the surrogate? Is she in the best hospital? Does she have the doctor who knows and cares for her?
Yeah.
And so I would say that's like the number one thing that can cause an issue. So we discuss it as much as we can.
Yeah, it's like my financial brain and the internal dork in me wants to like put that into an equation. Right?
I love it.
Like if trust is the intended outcome or equals trust, it's something like clear expectations plus communications equals trust.
Mm.
Right?
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
know, or not equals trust, but equals a better process and a better outcome, right? It's um, I think a lot about some of the value an agency has versus the growing trend of independent. And it's
Mhm.
you can read about surrogacy all day online.
Mhm.
You can go in the forums and good luck in the forums, right?
Yeah,
And
good luck.
you can ask ChatGPT to outline the steps or whatever. But if you don't have a professional that's helping you establish those expectations into the nitty-gritty of these details
Mhm.
and plan around what could happen and create that alignment in the beginning, there's a lot of risk, right? Or it's not going to be as smooth of a process.
Absolutely.
I've had that exact conversation with many attorney, just in terms of because they see independent journeys. Obviously, we don't. We're an agency. We're managing the case, and that almost verbatim what you said. You can only gain so much knowledge through literature and reading about it, but having an expert on your side that knows the process intimately and how to manage that process is a pivotal piece in terms of managing a successful surrogacy journey.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then just, when you have a good guide, and I think a big part of the agency role is the guide. You're the expert
Yeah.
guiding them through the overall journey. I view similar about our role on the financial side. We're the guide there. Um, it can also just help avoid getting caught up in things that don't matter, right?
Yeah.
You know, things that I see create tension sometimes, and the grand scheme of the overall journey are minute.
Yep.
Yep.
But there's a lot of emotion.
Yes.
A lot.
We're dealing with a pregnant surrogate, and sometimes, a mother that's already gone through a lot to get to the point where another woman's carrying her baby, and there's a lot of emotion. And sometimes I see the tension points, they're such a small thing. And I think letting the professionals, the small things matter, right? I'm not sitting here saying some of the things that get debated, like from my standpoint on the financial side, there could be a world of tension about like a $50 charge or a
Mhm.
difference in a calculation that's $10.
Yeah.
And that matters. I'm not saying it doesn't
Yeah.
Sure.
matter.
It
Things should be
certainly matters to
done,
them. Mhm.
Sure.
things should be managed per the contract.
Yes.
And that's not wrong. But in the grand scheme of things, those little things shouldn't create tension between the family and the surrogate, because there's a bigger picture of what that surrogate's doing for that family and what that family's working to achieve. And I think that's where it's the responsibility of the agencies and the escrow companies and other professionals to step in and say, "We got this. We'll fix this. Don't get focused on it," because I've seen those little things. I mean, where we have a case that's highly charged over such a small item. And it's clearly not about the dollars. It's
Yep.
principle and it's emotion. How do you all navigate through that, or help people navigate through that?
Well, I am really good at navigating feelings because, like you said, that when it's definitely emotionally charged, it's just listening to people, I think, first. And like I said earlier, if they feel like they're heard, that tends to kind of bring down any tension, because a lot of times I think there's an expectation of like, their feelings won't be validated. And so the first thing you do is you just listen to them, like, and I hear you. And then you try to educate them as best you can. I mean, our most successful cases, where everybody just had this beautiful, kind of almost seamless journey from start to finish, is when they did completely like rely on us and trust us to guide them at every step of the way. And they didn't second guess us, or questions are great, but if they're questions because they're not listening to what we've already told them and we have to repeat ourselves, that can be problematic too. But just trusting the process.
Yeah, our goal is always to protect the integrity of the process,
Yeah.
right? And that is a huge component of listening and understanding where people are emotionally. And this is what Jessica's so great at, in terms of diffusing any of those, the situations that you mentioned, which are not, they're important, but in terms of the end game, it's not the end all be all, right?
Yeah.
And this is why she's so good at that aspect of making sure that people feel heard and understood and validated and moving forward in a positive manner.
And trying to help both parties see the other side.
Yes. Yeah. Perspective.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's I think one of the things we see as adult and independent journeys, and may I say even in agency-led journeys, depending on how involved the agency is. Is just if they're a great guide and can help navigate most of these conversations, they don't escalate.
Yeah.
Even I always say, so we've managed over 30,000 cases in almost 10 years, which just blows my mind.
Impressive.
That's amazing.
That's impressive.
And on any given day, we're dealing with a few cases that are escalated, that have a problem. But in my math, and when I run our numbers, it's less than 1% that actually get to the point of a dispute. That it's tangible. Most items that come up are misunderstandings.
Yeah.
Yep.
And literally just the professionals saying, no, this is what happens here. This is what this means. Here's how this goes. And whether that's the agency, the attorney, or even us as the escrow company saying, look, we've been here, done this. This is common. And here's how this is what should happen and why. If people trust the professionals and they have the right team, the situations clear up. And every now and then, look, you're going to have a personality that's challenging, and we can't always find them. We can't always know in the beginning.
Yeah, you can't identify them early on. I'll tell you that.
We've all had those cases, and look, I empathize with them. They're going through something sometimes that's very hard, and I don't think even sometimes they intend to be that way. It's just maybe nature or the stress of the overall process.
Yeah.
And when those situations come up, that's when we really earn our stripes, all of us professionals, right? Because then to some degree, it's like, okay, let's guide this journey to the success the best we can. But it's usually just either a misunderstanding or a challenging personality.
Yep, absolutely.
That's why an agency is so important, to be that intermediary between parties, because if you're on an independent journey, and I'm not saying independent journeys can't work out, plenty of them do without issue. But if you have any kind of issues that do arise during the process of the surrogacy, it's important to have that buffer. And sure, you can have an attorney, but the approach may not be the same as an agency intermediary, right? They're looking at it from a legal sense, right? And it's a nuts and bolts type thing. And the empathy may not be the same at the same level in terms of how we're approaching it at the agency level. And that's understandable, right? Their job is to manage the legal process, and they do a great job at it. I have so many fantastic art attorneys we work with. But I think it's a point that this is why it's important to utilize a reputable agency to best guide you through that should issues arise.
Yeah.
It's the same with independent journeys with escrow. We're grateful for our independent cases. We do charge a little bit more,
As you should.
and our role is bigger. We are doing
Yeah.
more
course.
explaining
More
and
work.
guiding, but we are not an agency. We can't provide that advice and support.
Right.
We just take on a broader role in explaining the financial process and more time explaining all the provisions.
Yeah.
And that's okay. But it is the attorneys or the escrow company or none of us could ever fill what the agencies do, even if we charge. But I think we charge a couple $100 more, right? But like it's
Mhm.
minimal, and I don't know what the attorneys charge more. But even if we were to charge more, a lot more, we can't do what agencies do. It's not our role. It's not our expertise. And so it's different. You're right. Since we're talking about escrow, you talk to parents and surrogates all the time.
Yeah.
What are some things, and I live and breathe, I literally get up and go to bed every day. It's embarrassing thinking about escrow, financial complexities, checks and balances, bonding,
That's
technology.
why you're so good at what you do, Adam. You live and breathe it.
I need a hobby, but I love what we do, and but I think about it all the time. So for me, I'm so close to it, and I'm so obsessed with it. Sometimes I forget, I even have a hard time translating, like what do people understand or not. Like so, just I'm babbling now. But what are some of the common questions you get or misunderstandings about even about escrow?
Well, I mean, I really try and do a comprehensive approach when I mean, it goes in stages because you can't, there's so many moving parts to a surrogacy journey. It's hard to give them 20 steps out when you want to focus on maybe the next 5 steps, right? But I really do try and be comprehensive in terms of how the process works, specifically with SeedTrust, in terms of
And why it's important that we have an established an escrow company.
yes, right, yeah, why
And that it's a separate entity from us,
yeah,
from others, from lawyers.
yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say there's too much misunderstanding in terms of escrow on either the intended parents or the surrogate side. We make it easy for our surrogates, right? I don't, I can only speak from our standpoint of how we operate, but I'm only having them fill out one form that encompasses the entire month, right? Versus having to constantly be within the escrow account and doing it that way. It makes it's simple. It simplifies it for the surrogate. So I'm usually their first line of defense. When they have questions, they come to me. If those are questions that I maybe am interpreting the contract, then we'll move maybe to the legal level. But that rarely happens. Most of the time, it's their questions answered. We move forward. And in terms of escrow, as far as they're aware, they just give me their expense report and the money's dispersed to their account. And that's pretty simple for them. In terms of intended parent side, I guess yeah, that's what I'm saying. I guess if the biggest component would be funding and how to go about that, even though I feel like you guys are very easy in terms of how your funding process is set up. Sometimes I have to go the extra mile and just really break it down and walk them through how you do it. And, obviously SeedTrust is a resource to how to fund SeedTrust accounts. But, I help guide them through that process should they need it. But I mean, generally speaking, the way that you guys operate, it makes our life easier because of your process. And it is very what's the word I'm looking for? Evident in terms of what you need to do for escrow. If you come below a minimum balance, I'm going to come up with an overview of what we can expect in terms of known, estimated, expected costs in the future. Give you that number. Hey, you should fund this amount because I don't want you to have to continually funding our escrow. I try and be a good financial steward for our intended parents as well. That's part of my job at Surrogacy Partnership as well, to make sure that process goes well. But SeedTrust does a fantastic job in what they do.
Yep.
So I rarely have questions to answer. I rarely have difficulties with either intended parents or surrogates in terms of escrow.
No, I think escrow in our industry is very unique. Uh, when I, even when I first came into the space, escrow was very different, right? What we
It
saw,
was.
we saw the opportunity to make it better,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And make it more secure and make it a true value add. Back then, it was monthly ledgers, no
Yeah.
technology, checks in the mail, and the escrow
Yeah.
company didn't actually check anything.
Yeah.
They didn't take any responsibility. They put all of that on the agency.
Yes.
Yeah, and sometimes the checks did not get in the mail
Yeah.
or lost in the mail. And as a surrogate that was with a escrow company like that, you'd be like, oh, the other check never came. Okay. And you never knew what was going on. You, as a surrogate, having a portal system where you can be responsible for looking up how much money is being funded.
Yeah.
I think that's important that a surrogate has that understanding. I never knew if the parents were funding.
Yeah.
There was no transparency. And I think that's important for not only intended parents, but surrogates as well. And that's where the protection and the trust comes in, is that they have that knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, I would say SeedTrust operations model what we try and do, which is full transparency, right? We say, hey, you can get on and look at the escrow trust 24/7. You want to get up at 3 in the morning and check your escrow account, you have the means to do so. And having that full transparency and visibility to all sides of the party is, I think, an integral part of the financial piece of what makes surrogacy possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting how it's evolved. I remember in the beginning, I think people thought I was a little bit crazy. When I said, "Hey, we're going to take the," and I remember because before agencies did it and took all the responsibility to make sure everything was administered per the contract. I actually remember some of our early calls, and we had a very rudimentary process and portal. And what I think is important is if the money's managed by an independent third party and there's an agency involved, here's what happens. First, the agency is going to check. And even if they're not checking it first, they're going to get access to it and also put eyes on it. So no matter what, you have an agency who's an expert in the process checking the request or even submitting the request and making sure it's per that agreement and the documentation's there. Then it comes to our team, and then we take the financial liability that we're also going to check it per the contract and the receipts and make sure it's included or approved. So that's two set of eyes on it that of experts that are independent to each other for the parents and for the surrogates, and we do catch mistakes, and I know you all see mistakes, and
Sure.
and what's important to me is that so much goes into these journeys and into the contracts, right? What's important to me is that the money's managed fairly, right?
Yep.
That the IPs don't pay any more than what they agreed to or are willing to agree to, and that the surrogate gets what's due, and that she's protected to ensure her bills are paid, right? If there's a scenario where a parent's not wanting to pay a surrogate for something silly and her medical bill is not getting paid, that could hurt her credit.
Yep.
Agreed.
And she's doing something amazing for her family. It shouldn't hurt her, right? So, like, what's important to me in this process and what drives me when I started this is say this: we need to have an independent party that has the responsibility to make sure the money's managed fairly per the agreement. I think I do a bad job explaining that typically. But that's what should matter. The money piece shouldn't be a problem or beyond the cost, which is high. And it shouldn't give advantage to the parents or the surrogates. It should just be easy to manage and be managed fairly. And that's kind of one of the things that makes me tick in this whole process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because if there's not people checking it and there's not a third party involved, it can be used, the money piece can be used the wrong way for for one side or the other to get their way. Right. Let's pull up big picture for just a minute.
Sure.
The industry is growing, right? The industry is evolving, and there's always the headline of the week or the next battle we're facing as an industry to evolve. What are you seeing, or what do you think what the future of the industry looks like, or things we need to do better as an industry?
Yeah, that is a big picture question.
That could be a whole hour, right?
That's something.
Yeah.
Because us personally, we're not growing. We like our
We stay in our lane.
We like our little twosome. We're happy with the amount of cases we take on every year where we're able to give what we feel is fair to everybody involved and not overstretch ourselves. But what we have seen an uptick on, which I think, I don't know why, but it feels a little worrisome to me, is
we've been seeing a lot of private equity investment into IVF clinics. That's becoming a little concerning to us, just because I know how private equity works, and we're not necessarily thinking the holistic approach like we are in terms of care and compassion for the individuals involved. Private equity is looking at making a return on their investment.
And when you
full
see
stop
individual clinics that you've been used to working with, and now a lot of them are under the same umbrella when they were independent before of each other, it just starts to make me wonder what's going to continue to happen.
Yeah, and I don't want to be all doom and gloom about private equity investment, because certainly it can have its benefits, right? But I have also seen the negative consequences of it as well. And you know, I certainly hope that doesn't come to pass in any of the clinics that we're aware that private equity investment has come into play. But that's probably, in terms of a big picture item, one thing that's kind of concerning us lately. And
Government.
And we've seen, well, of course, no politics, sure. I mean, the political climate is, I wouldn't say the most favorable in terms of like what we do.
DACA status GCs were great to be able to use and wonderful people, and now people feel very scared about, as I understand they would be, of using somebody of a DACA status. Also, as long as the state used to be surrogacy friendly, quote unquote, then it was a state that they would be happy to work with. And now people are very much more mindful, intended parents, about what state the surrogate can live in, just because of termination laws. And we never used to have to think about that, you know, so many years ago. And like Texas was a great state to work in surrogacy wise. And now people, you know, are so scared to work in it, you know, because of the laws are so strong there. So, we're just seeing those shifts, and we're seeing how that affects, you know, we've got good candidates in Texas, but I have to let the girls know, I'm like, it's not you, it's your state. And that's what's scary to people. And so we're just having to educate more, and having people do more consult calls with legal so that they can have a full understanding of the state that they're thinking about working in or not working in, and if that is a good fit for them. So the political climate is definitely affected surrogacy, I feel. Not necessarily for the better. It's made it more challenging.
Sure. So it's definitely added more puzzles to puzzle pieces to the component.
Yeah, more reason you need experts to guide you, right? I mean, you know what I think is interesting, you mentioned the private equity, you know, private equity shops can do a good job advancing a business. And I think, and I guess what gives me hope is I think there will always be a mix of kind of bigger and smaller agencies. You all have always said you were going to remain small and have that hands-on personal service. I didn't believe you, to be honest, because you did a great job and I thought you would grow. You've kept to that. But I think what I've noticed and what gives me what I believe is the industry does a great job policing itself. And it doesn't matter who owns your business, whether it's private equity or an individual, if you start to do the wrong things, or even apparently for the wrong reasons, this industry will turn on you and it'll be very hard to continue. But in regards to politics, I agree it's challenging, and I always say infertility is personal. And surrogacy is personal. It's not political, and it doesn't care the color of your skin, where you're from, how rich or poor you are, or which way you vote. It hits everybody. So, and what gives me hope there is this industry continues to work and always finds a way to serve people, even when there are challenges. Right? The amazing people. If somebody wants to learn more about you two, the couple, the married couple who survived 8 years of successfully running a business together, who does an awesome job. How can they get?
You can find us on the web, www.surrogacypartnership.com. We have copious amounts of information on there. You can schedule consults from there. Obviously, you can give us a direct, all our contact information's on there. You can contact us directly through there.
And we're on Facebook, LinkedIn,
Sure, all the social
all the
platforms.
social. I manage that too. That's my
Yeah,
second job.
that's-
That's
We haven't
your night
outsourced
job,
that
right?
either.
Yep.
That's the after dinner job, right?
Yeah.
Well, thank you both so much for all you do, and for taking the time to chat today.
Absolutely, it was a
Thanks for
pleasure.
having us.